There's a $350,000 painting in Stuart Little that was in plain sight, but no one even noticed. Robin Williams' character Mrs. Doubtfire describes Stuart Little as the greatest character in all of literature. Well, in 1999, moviegoers were blessed with a live-action version, appropriately titled Stuart Little. The film starred Hugh Laurie, Geena Davis, and Michael J. Fox, but most people never realized that hanging in the background was a $350,000 painting until someone pointed it out many years later. They say miracles do happen, but how often does anyone get to witness one in their lifetime? Maybe once or twice if they're lucky. Well, as it turns out, miracles can happen, but if we're not paying attention, we can miss them. Fortunately, that wasn't the case for one father. Gergely Barkay, a researcher and art historian working at the Hungarian National Gallery in Budapest, was used to seeing expensive works of art hanging on the walls of art galleries, but he never expected to find a $350,000 painting in a children's movie. It was 2009 and the night before Christmas. Barkay had been looking forward to this moment all day long. As an art historian, he often found it difficult to make time for his family. This was particularly tough on his relationship with his daughter, Lola, but now he had the chance to make it up to her. He sat down in the living room next to his daughter to watch the live-action 1999 film Stuart Little. And sure, it was a decade old at the time, but some classic movies are like wine and only get better with age. But he had no idea his life was about to change because of the movie he chose to watch with his daughter. His daughter, Lola, sat on his lap and prepared for what was sure to be a great bonding experience with her dad, and she was right. The film had them in stitches because it was so cute and hilarious. But all of a sudden, Barkay stopped giggling and his daughter didn't know why. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, and yet her father seemed to be in a trance as she looked up at him. She thought about asking him if everything was okay, but she figured that this was how adults reacted to children's movies and went back to enjoying the movie. But she didn't know that her father's mind was captivated by something he saw in the film. There was a scene in the film where Stuart, who was a mouse, and his humans were having a chat right in front of the fireplace. But Barkay could have cared less about the conversation they were having. In fact, he was more interested in a particular object in the background. Barkay noticed a painting hanging over the fireplace in the scene and he recognized it right away. This wasn't some simple prop or a painting that the set designers had bought at a flea market. It was something far more valuable. "I nearly dropped Lola from my lap," Barkay was quoted saying. "It was like a miracle of Christmas for me. It seems almost impossible to find a painting hidden in a Hollywood movie, but why was it so important to him?" Barkay realized that the painting was a long-lost Hungarian painting that had seemingly vanished back in 1928. It was done by artist Robert Barany and it was called The Sleeping Lady with Blackface. But who was Barany? Barany was a part of a groundbreaking team of artists known as the Eight who revolutionized Hungary's art movement in 1909. This made him a major historical figure in Hungarian art. But not everyone was jumping for joy over this prolific artist. In 1920, Barany designed a series of recruitment posters for a communist revolution movement. Unfortunately, the movement failed, which forced him to flee Hungary that same year. But years later, he painted a portrait that would vanish without a trace. In 1926, Barany painted a portrait of his second wife and named it Sleeping Lady with Blackface. But one day, the masterpiece disappeared. So, when Barkay saw what appeared to be the real thing in the film, he gasped and felt his heart jump with excitement. Barkay had only seen a black and white photo of the painting in the 1928 exhibition catalog. So, when he saw it on the TV, he knew it was real. It was not just on screen for 1 second but in several scenes of the film, so I knew I was not dreaming, he was quoted saying. But finding the painting would prove difficult. The first thing Barkay did was email Sony and Columbia Pictures, which had produced the film. Unfortunately, the executive producers didn't know what had happened to the painting after production had wrapped. So, his next step was clear. He decided to contact every cast and crew member connected to the film via email. But no one could help him. 2 years went by and all hope seemed lost. Then, he received an email that got him very excited. The woman who contacted him was an assistant set director who had been tasked with the responsibility of finding props for the movie. To that end, she bought a painting at an antique shop in Pasadena, California, for $500. But what had happened to the painting? Once production ended, the assistant set director took the painting home. But that didn't mean that she still had it. And yet, surprisingly, she did. It was hanging on her bedroom wall in Washington, Barkey was quoted saying. But it took a year before he had the chance to see the painting in person. Within a year, I had a chance to visit her and see the painting and tell her everything about the painter. She was very surprised, he said. But the big question was, how on earth did the painting travel from Hungary to California? When the story about the painting became headline news, the previous owner, Michael Hempstead, reached out and explained that he had bought the painting in the 1990s at the St. Vincent de Paul charity auction in San Diego, California, and he paid less for it than the assistant set director did. I think I only paid $40, Hempstead was quoted saying. Somebody had just donated it, probably with a lot of other items. He knew it was one of Barony's masterpieces, but he didn't know it was categorized as being lost. So, he sold it at a Pasadena antique shop for about $400, which is where the assistant set designer eventually bought it. Barkey assumed that the painting was originally bought during the 1928 exhibition. That was when it was last exhibited, and, as most of the buyers were Jewish, it probably left the country as a result of the war, he assumed. After the wars, revolutions, and tumult of the 20th century, many Hungarian masterpieces are lost, scattered around the world. But how it traveled from Hungary to California will likely remain a mystery. The assistant set designer eventually sold the painting to an art collector. Then, on December 13, 2014, the painting was sent to a Budapest gallery for auctioning. But how much did the painting that was worth $350,000 end up selling for? The Sleeping Lady with Black Vase was auctioned off for a whopping $285,700 to a Hungarian buyer whose name was not disclosed. But ironically, Barkey didn't bid on it and did not attend the auction, but he still had made a major contribution to Hungarian art. It was an amazing, once-in-a-lifetime experience to discover the painting. That was the exciting part, he was quoted saying. But he also said that a researcher can never take his eyes off the job, even when watching Christmas movies at home.